In the magnificent kingdom of Chronopolis, time is more than just a concept. It is the very heartbeat of life, powered by a massive central machine. Every clock, every movement, and every soul in this golden city depends on the endless rhythmic rotation of the great time engine at the center. But on one fateful day, the unthinkable happened. The great time engine, the core of existence itself, suddenly seized and ground to a complete halt. The impact was instantaneous. Birds, flying through the air, were caught in a moment of stillness, frozen in the sky, as if time had simply vanished. Even the great waterfall ceased its descent, its majestic torrent turning into a silent gallery of suspended crystals, defying the laws of gravity and nature. The entire society fell into a terrifying state of frozen animation. The bustling streets became a graveyard of moments, captured in a haunting, eternal silence. High above the ground, flying cars remained stationary, their anti-gravity fields failing as the power grid of time itself began to collapse into chaos. The vibrant neon pulse of the city turned into a desperate red heartbeat, signaling a crisis that no one was prepared to face in their lifetime. Inside the heart of time, the complexity was staggering. Thousands of layers of brass and steel lay dormant, a giant puzzle that had lost its key. Energy readings plummeted to zero. The vital flow that sustained the kingdom was gone, leaving only an eerie, heavy stillness that weighed on the air. We often believe the world will always function as it should, until a single, critical point of failure stops everything we have ever known. The kingdom's finest minds were summoned immediately. These young engineers, armed with the latest technology, were the last hope for restoring the flow of time. They analyzed the machine with high-precision lasers, scanning every inch of the vast mechanism to find the source of the catastrophic system failure. The data was overwhelming. Thousands of errors blinked back at them, a chaotic mess of information that seemed impossible to decipher or fix quickly. Desperation set in. They began to work with frantic energy, hammering, welding, and pulling at the machine, hoping that brute force would yield results. They believed that more effort meant faster success. They poured every ounce of their strength into the repair, working without a single moment of rest. But the machine remained stubborn. Every heavy blow and every complex command seemed to go unnoticed by the sleeping giant of steel and brass. They attempted to replace entire sections of the engine, thinking that the problem must be large and obvious, requiring a massive and visible solution. Their blind hustle only led to more complications. In their rush to be busy, they were causing more damage than they were actually repairing. The noise was deafening, but it was the noise of failure. Action without direction is nothing more than a chaotic waste of precious energy and time. They tried everything they knew, using power, complex algorithms, and sheer manpower. Yet, the great engine didn't even vibrate with the slightest hint of life. Hours turned into a long, agonizing wait. The brightest stars of the academy were failing, their confidence shattered by a problem they couldn't simply overpower. Fatigue took its toll. Their minds, once sharp and analytical, were now clouded by the panic of being unable to fix the heart of their world. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of burnt circuits and the bitter taste of failure. The engineers' frantic efforts had reached a dead end. They had confused activity with productivity. They had assumed that the size of the solution must match the size of the machine they were fixing. In the end, they were left with nothing but exhaustion. Blind effort, no matter how intense, is never a substitute for true understanding and insight. Then, from the shadows of the past, an old man appeared. He didn't look like an engineer, and he carried no heavy tools or flashing tablets. He moved with a quiet grace that silenced the room. His steps were slow and deliberate, carrying the weight of years of silent observation and wisdom. The young engineers looked at him with skepticism and doubt. How could this relic of a man succeed where their advanced technology had failed so miserably? He didn't look at the data screens or the error reports. He didn't need the flashing lights to tell him what the machine was feeling inside. He placed his hand on the metal, feeling the deep, cold stillness. He wasn't just looking at a machine, he was listening to a lost heartbeat. In the absolute quiet, he searched for the whisper of the gears. He sought the one place where the flow of energy had been interrupted. While others saw a mountain of problems, he saw a single delicate thread that had been pulled tight, stopping the entire world in its tracks. From his simple box, he produced his only tool, a slender silver needle. It was small, humble, and looked entirely insignificant against the massive gears. His gaze was unwavering. He had found it the exact point of tension, the one tiny gear that held the fate of the entire kingdom. With a precision that only decades of experience can provide, he guided the needle into the heart of the complex mechanical labyrinth without any hesitation. There it was, a single microscopic grain of crystal dust. It was no larger than a speck of sand, but it was enough to stop eternity. He gave a gentle flick. It wasn't a show of strength, but a masterstroke of accuracy. The obstacle was removed with a single, elegant movement. A soft click echoed through the silent chamber. It was a small sound, but to the ears of the master, it was the sound of success. He stepped back, not needing to check his work. He knew the machine was ready to breathe again. His task was finished in under a minute. The great silence was finally broken. A deep, resonant hum began to grow, vibrating through the floor and into the hearts of everyone present. One by one, the gears began to turn, slowly at first, then faster, as the lifeblood of Chronopolis began to flow through its mechanical veins again. The room exploded with golden light. The great time engine was alive, its power radiating outward, reclaiming the world from the grip of the freeze. In the city, the waterfall roared back to life, its crystalline droplets joining together once more in a triumphant descent towards the earth below. The birds took flight, their song returning to the air. The world was no longer a statue. It was a living, breathing, and moving masterpiece once again. Joy erupted in the streets. People who had been frozen in time were now celebrating the return of their lives, their futures restored by a miracle. The elite engineers were speechless. They had spent hours in a futile battle of strength, only to be outdone by a single, tiny needle. The king himself came forward to thank the artisan. He was grateful, but he was also curious about the cost of such a vital service. The old man took a small piece of parchment and wrote down his price. The amount was staggering. 10,000 gold coins for a minute's work. The king questioned him. 10,000 gold for just a simple flick of a needle? Isn't that a bit excessive for such a small effort? The artisan didn't argue. He simply added a breakdown of the costs, a lesson that would change the king's perspective on value forever. 1 coin for the needle, and 9,999 for the wisdom of knowing exactly where to place it. The king understood. He realized that true mastery is not about the effort spent, but about the decades of learning that make the effort look easy. He left as quietly as he had arrived. He didn't want fame. He only wanted the world to keep moving forward in its beautiful, rhythmic dance. His work was a testament to the power of precision. He proved that a single, focused action can be more powerful than 1,000 scattered ones. This story is not just a legend from a distant kingdom. It is a fundamental truth that applies to every part of our modern lives today. Think of the surgeon. They don't spend hours cutting randomly. They spend years studying so they can make one perfect, life-saving incision in seconds. The value of the surgeon isn't in the time they spend in the room, but in the precision of their skill and their specialized knowledge. Consider the programmer. They might spend days searching for a bug, only to fix it by deleting one single, unnecessary line of code. It's not about how many lines they wrote. It's about having the deep understanding to know which one was breaking the entire system's logic. A business consultant can save a failing company not by working harder, but by giving one piece of advice that changes their entire strategic direction. They identify the stuck gear in the organization's structure and provide the silver needle solution that allows everything to function smoothly again. We live in an age that worships busyness. We equate long hours and high stress with success, but this is often a dangerous and exhausting illusion. Real efficiency comes from simplifying problems down to their core. It's about finding the most direct path to the result without any wasted motion. Are you working 12 hours a day but seeing no progress? Perhaps you are trying to move the whole machine when you only need to flick a needle. Ask yourself, what is the silver needle in your work? What is the one critical action that will make everything else fall into place? Success is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters most, with the highest degree of focus and the most profound understanding possible. The path to mastery requires patience and a commitment to deep learning. It is the accumulation of knowledge that allows for such simple, powerful actions. When you understand the system, the solution becomes obvious. When you don't, you are forced to use the hammer of brute force and hope for luck. Skill is the tool. Knowledge is the map. Mastery is the ability to use them both to solve the most complex problems with absolute simplicity. In the stillness of mastery, there is no panic. There is only the quiet confidence of knowing exactly what to do and when to do it. Don't just be an engineer who is busy with heavy tools. Strive to be the artisan who knows exactly where to place the silver needle. Nurture your understanding, refine your skills, and never stop looking for the points of leverage that will move your world forward with ease. Value your time and the time of others by focusing on impact rather than activity. True success is an art of minimalism and deep insight. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Remember, don't just work harder, work smarter through the power of true, profound understanding and mastery.